Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy. In today's video, I'm bringing you guys a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 10th overall spot on Sleeper.com. Now, I know, or Sleeper.app is what the website is called. Typically, we do it on FantasyPros.com, the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. But today, I wanted to go ahead and change it up and do it on Sleeper, since the ADP is going to be different on every single draft, or not every single draft, but every single draft website. So if you're drafting on ESPN, Yahoo, NFL, CBS, it's all going to look different. The players that you see ranked on the screen, and that is what really determines who players pick, because they see a guy at the top of the board and it really makes them panic if they want to go ahead and pick that guy, that they go ahead and draft that guy. So before we get into it, I'd like to ask you guys, could please go down below and click that subscribe button. It's free, and I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. If you guys would like some extra help, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/notoriousfantasy. $7.50 for the month of August gets you the draft guide, and you can message me whenever you want on there. I will always make sure to answer for you guys. So let's get right into a 10-team mock draft from the 10th overall spot. This is a PPR. The roster positions are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. So let's get right into it. So the first couple of picks of the draft are going to be chalk as always. You're never really going to see something different than the first 4 or 5, 6 picks are always pretty much the exact same guys, just in a variety of different ways. So first pick, we see Christian McCaffrey, followed by Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Thomas, Miles Sanders, CEH, and Derrick Henry. Now, I actually recorded this video for the first 2 minutes of it a couple of minutes ago, and I realized that the camera was fucked up, so I had to go back. But CEH went at the 5 pick, so I would not be surprised if CEH arises into being one of those top 5, 6, 7 picks of the draft, because people are going to be very high on him. Just one video of hype has to come out with Patrick Mahomes dumping the ball off to the guy, and he is going to scream up the draft board. The first 4 picks, very chalk. Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, or Ezekiel Elliott typically go at that 4 or 5 spot. Michael Thomas is cemented in the middle of the first round. And then the other wide receiver, Davante Adams, typically goes at the end of the first round, and if he doesn't, he will go in the beginning of the second round. So now it is our pick, and we are looking at a couple of positions here, because we could go wide receiver, because one of the best wide receivers in football is still available in Davante Adams. Or you could kind of go against the grain, which a lot of people here would just go with Davante Adams, since he is the safer kind of pick. But for me, I'm all about the running back train early in these drafts. I will probably do a video where I draft a wide receiver early to see how my team looks, but I've done it before multiple times. I typically don't enjoy how that team looks, rather than going with 2 running backs off the rippo. So looking at the running backs still available, Sleeper has Josh Jacobs as our best available running back, followed by Kenyon Drake, Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler. That list is a bit wonky, because I think there's other guys that are better than others, but they're all around the same tier of players, so you could really go ahead and pick a mismatch of any of those guys here at that pick and really still enjoy your team. But for me, there are 2 picks here that I like the most. That is Joe Mixon. I would take Joe Mixon inside of the top 6 players, top 8 players of your draft. I really think Joe Mixon is going to tear it up in 2020. If you want to go safer, though, Joe Mixon or Nick Chubb would definitely be the lean there. I also think Austin Eckler is a very safe pick due to the fact that I think he's going to see a lot of volume both in the rushing aspect of the game as well as in the pass-catching aspect of the game. So like I said, you can mix and match any of these guys together. I'm not going to go ahead and have some type of an argument, so I'm just going to draft the guy that I have ranked the highest next, and that is Joseph Mixon, running back of the Las Vegas Raiders. I think if we could see Josh Jacobs as well as Joe Mixon get an increase in the pass-catching game like their coaches and their GMs have been telling us that is going to happen, then we can see both these guys really explode in 2020. And at the 110 and the 201, that is definitely a steal in your draft. So after we went with Josh Jacobs, Julio Jones came off the board, followed by Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, Kenyon Drake, Austin Eckler, Pat Mahomes, Nick Chubb, DeAndre Hopkins, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Jones, Chris Godwin, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, James Conner, Todd Gurley, Kenny Golladay, Mike Evans, Chris Carson, and now it is our pick. So just like on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard, we see Mahomes, Jackson, Kelce, and Kittle all go in the 2nd and 3rd round. Typically, we were seeing them all kind of go around the 2nd round together or in the 3rd round together, but there was not that big of a difference between the picks where the guys went, so that is going to be very typical of your draft. Someone picks one of the quarterbacks, then another guy just shortly after shits their pants, panics, and picks another quarterback. Same thing goes with the tight end. They went back-to-back. Michael Jordan, 96-97 at the 303 and the 304. So now it is our turn to make our selection, but before we do that, let's look back here and talk about some picks that I like and versus the ones that I don't really like in the 3rd and 2nd round. So now that we have our 2 running backs, when we're looking back at the draft, like I said, we are going to do the picks that I don't really like here. I don't like Todd Gurley in the 3rd round. I really do not see a way that he is seeing all of these touches, all this, all that, because sure, he might be the workhorse back on the team, but the workhorse back just doesn't get enough touches there since they're a very, very, very pass-heavy team, the most pass-heavy team in the NFL last season. I don't like DeAndre Hopkins there in the second round. I'd prefer to wait till the third round to go ahead and get him. I really like the value of Mike Evans as well as Kenny Golladay in the third round, but not a lot of wide receivers have came off the board, which is very typical. You're going to be seeing a huge running back brigade early in the draft, and then later in the draft is where you're going to start seeing the wide receivers fly off the board. So there's a lot of nice wide receivers still available here at the back half of the third round and the early fourth round. So looking at guys still available, DJ Moore really buried in the sleeper ADP, and he is going to be a guy that I see being a top 10 wide receiver in your fantasy football league. So he would be my pick here at the 310. I just think DJ Moore is one of the best players in fantasy football for the season. I think his touchdown total goes up. He only scored 4 last season. I think he's just overall going to be a better player with a better quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater over having Kyle Allen. Now, I would also not argue if you went Adam Thielen or Mr. Allen Robinson here at that pick. Those are the two guys that I like the most in this spot. So now that we have DJ Moore, we could really go any way. We could dip back into the running back well. We could dip into the tight end well, the quarterback well. Typically, though, guys, I'm not trying to get a quarterback early in a 10-team league. I just don't think that you have to. I don't think you have to in any type of league, but in 10-team league, I just don't really see it. I'd rather just wait at the position unless there was some extreme value with Patrick Mahomes still here in the 4th round or Lamar Jackson. Tight end, though, in a 10-team league, I view as more of a premium because it is kind of easy to go ahead and find a tight end early in those drafts. Why is that? That is because, or not really that you got to find them early, but it's easy to find a guy early right here that you know is going to be good in Mark Andrews. You want to know who's not going to be good later in the draft? Maybe some guy you take late and may miss, or one of these middling round tight ends, whereas I'd rather go ahead and get a guy that I can solidify into my roster week in and week out, since every team is going to be stacked in a 10-team league, pretty much, unless you're drafting with a captain fucktard, someone who is a goddamn idiot. Then your teams are all going to be stacked. So please make sure you go ahead and draft that tight end early here in these kind of leagues. Now, I don't advise technically reaching up and picking one in the second round. If Mark Andrews wasn't here in the 4th round, then you can go ahead and continue to wait. I would not hate doing that. But for me here, Mark Andrews is the certified pick here in the 4th round. The guy was a beast last year in Baltimore, and I believe he could be just as good in 2020, especially with an increase in passing attempts, I believe, by the Baltimore Ravens this year, since I believe teams have kind of figured out that you just have to make it so that they can't run the ball a million times down your throat, because that's how you lose the game up against the Baltimore Ravens. So after Andrews, we see Odell Beckham Jr. come off the board, followed by Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Allen Robinson, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, Adam Thielen, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, A.J. Brown, David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, Jonathan Taylor, Devin Singletary, Tyler Lockett. Now, Jonathan Taylor at the 5-7 is extreme value. That is an amazing pick there. I would have considered him in the 4th round there, since I believe, sure, he might not be like the week 1, week 2 starter, but I think just a couple weeks into the season, he is going to emerge as the alpha running back in that system. Other picks that I like: Adam Thielen in the 4th round, great value. Calvin Ridley in the 5th round. Cooper Kupp in the 4th round. As well, I like David Montgomery in the 5th round, but a little early considering Jonathan Taylor was still on the board. Picks I don't like: Raheem Mostert in the 5th round. That is complete shit pick considering they run a running back by committee there. What a running back by committee is, they have a zillion running backs. They all give them the ball. And then unless multiple people were to get hurt, Raheem Mostert is left out to dry. So in the 5th round, that is a terrible pick, at least in my opinion. Now, typically, I'm against drafting Amari Cooper since he goes around the 3rd round, but in the 5th round, that's fine enough value for me to want to go ahead and take him, but I probably still want to take him since I just believe he's so hot and cold, and he's just kind of a cancer to own on your roster. I don't like Odell in the 4th round as well. I really think they're going to be so run-heavy. It's nothing against Odell Beckham Jr.'s talent. I understand that maybe he was, quote-unquote, playing hurt, but I believe he hurt his groin, but that was probably just from fucking your fantasy roster all season long. So now it is time to look either in the running back or wide receiver. While we are not drafting another tight end, obviously, and we're not going to be drafting a quarterback anywhere near now. So it's time to go ahead and snag that tight end or that, not the tight end, the wide receiver or the running back. So looking at wide receiver, Robert Woods still available, followed by DJ Chark, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin. A bunch of solid value there. At running back, we see Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Swift, Ronald Jones, Mark Ingram, Cam Akers, James White, all available as well. Now, the running back well is starting to get a bit diminished, so I think if we don't go ahead and draft a running back here, at least one, we are going to be disappointed in our draft looking at the end of the draft because we won't have the depth at running back to go ahead and win your league, because running backs are the most important position to find depth at. You can find wide receivers super late that you like in the next couple of rounds, whereas the running backs are going to be dog doo-doo and be more, not even that they're dog doo-doo, it's more about the fact that they're more up to chance at the running back position, whereas wide receivers, you feel like you can find some nice locked and loaded fucking starters later in your draft. So looking at running back, to me, there's one clear pick here, and that is Kareem Hunt, running back of the Cleveland Browns. Kareem Hunt has a whole lot of upside in this offense. If Chubb was to go down, he'd be amazing. Now, this if is a huge if because he has not missed a single game in his first 2 seasons inside of the NFL. So obviously, I wouldn't bet on it like your Troy Bolton, but I would go ahead and assume that he will still be able to get a lot of work in that offense. They are going to be a run-heavy system under Kevin Stefanski, and I just believe that this system is going to be vital for Kareem Hunt. He's going to be getting a whole lot of touches as well as a lot of opportunities to catch passes, which is what Kareem Hunt really eats on. So I think we go with Kareem Hunt here in the 5th round, and then maybe look running back or wide receiver with our next pick, but probably wide receiver, since I feel like we can go ahead and fill in that wide receiver 2 spot with the player that I've ranked inside of my top 14 at the wide receiver position, and that is Bobby Woods, Bobby Trees, as people like to call him, Robert Woods, wide receiver of the LA Rams. I believe that he has potential to even be better than Cooper Kupp, and finding him 2 rounds after Cooper Kupp is super good value in this draft. I also like Terry McLaurin, but I don't like him at anywhere near as much as I like Robert Woods here in the 6th round. Obviously, if you had him last year, it was a straight-up struggle bus. At the beginning of the season, this guy is dicking down your roster, and then at the end of the season, he's dicking down your opponent because he's scoring so many points. So I think that we see more of an end-of-the-season Robert Woods, but because of at the end of the season, they committed to the 2 tight end set, which meant that there was going to be another tight end out there to block, so Jared Goff wasn't getting absolutely blindsided like the movie. Instead, he was able to actually pass the ball, and Robert Woods was really eating in that scenario, and Cooper Kupp was kind of taking a shit during that time. After we see Robert Woods come off the board, we see Zach Ertz followed by Baby Chark, Baby Chark, and then Cortland Sutton, Keenan Allen, T.Y. Hilton, DeAndre Swift, Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, Russell Wilson, Mark Ingram, Ronald Jones, Stephon Diggs, Kyler Murray, A.J. Green, Hollywood Brown, Darren Waller, Deshaun Watson, Michael Gallup, and Dakota Prescott. So as per typical, once someone, after the 2 big quarterbacks come off the board, then eventually people begin to wait on a quarterback, and then someone picks one, which is Russell Wilson in the 6th round, and then the rest of the league starts to panic, so 3 more go after that. So right now, 6 quarterbacks have came off the board through 7 rounds. This could be different in every draft, though, because in some leagues, a lot of people are much more sharp. They wait on the quarterback, whereas in other leagues, you might be playing with some newer type of players or players who just don't do as much research as you, because you're doing a bunch of research because you're watching this video, and you made it this far. So if you made it this far, make sure to click that like button as well as that subscribe button if you are new. And those kind of newer players, or the less experienced, kind of less understanding players, like to get the quarterback early because they think, oh, the quarterback's the most important position in real life, which it is not the most important position in fantasy football. So now it's time to dip back into the running back well, since I don't really love any of these wide receivers here. None of them are really calling my name besides Tyler Boyd, and I know I could probably get him maybe even in the 9th round according to this ADP. So here we're going to go ahead and snag running back James White. Now, you could go with the high upside pick of Cam Akers, but I'm more likely to go with the safe running back here in James White, who I believe has top 12 potential, though, with Cam Newton under center. I know Cam Newton in the past has done well with a pass-catching running back whose name is the best running back in fantasy football and in real life, Christian McCaffrey of the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, he's done well with him in the past, and now with the adding of Lamar Miller, I am very confident that Sony Michel is not going to do jack of all dick this season, so I think we can go ahead and get James White here in the 7th round and be very happy with him with the upside he brings. Now, we could go running back again here, which is something that I might be not even opposed to doing, because I think loading up on running back is key to winning your league, and then we can jump on some wide receivers in the upcoming rounds. So here we can go ahead and snag running back with the upside, which is Cam Akers. Now, I think this may take a couple of weeks for Cam Akers to be good for fantasy football. But hey, we already have Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs, Kareem Hunt, and James White. So we already have 4 running backs. This will be our 5th running back. So we probably won't need him for the first couple of weeks of the season. Then we can go ahead and slot him in a couple of weeks in when he is the full head honcho starter in LA. And I think that Cam Akers is going to have an excellent season. I think we see him really get force-fed the ball by Coach Sean McVay. After we went with Cam Akers, fellow rookie running back friend J.K. Dobbins coming off the board, followed by Devontae Parker, Julian Edelman, Drew Brees, Robert Gronkowski, Rob Gronk Spike, Marlon Mack, Brandon Cooks, Evan Ingram, Eze, Tariq Cohen, Willie Fuller, Matt Breida, Tyler Boyd, Jordan Howard, Matt Ryan, Tevin Coleman, Jarvis Landry, Hayden Hurst, and then Deontay Johnson. Hayden Hurst is a guy that I fucking love. I talk him up in every video. I pretty much just draft former Baltimore tight ends because I either go with Mark Andrews. If I don't get him, I'm snagging Hayden Hurst, and I'm willing to do it as early as like the 8th round because I think the guy has amazing upside in Atlanta. Super pass-heavy team, and Dirk Cutter jerks off to those tight ends. He loves that tight end just like Phillip Rivers. So now we have a bunch of running backs. The running backs have really fallen off. So now we can go ahead and dip into the wide receiver well and snag our wide receiver 3 that I love, Marvin Jones of the Detroit Lions. I really see a whole bunch of upside there for not even upside because we already know his upside. His ceiling is like a top 10 top 10, top 12 wide receiver on the week. Stafford sees them as 1A and 1B. I do like Golladay far more, but I think Marvin Jones can really get it done this season. Now, real quick, because I forgot to look back, we can look back at these picks and talk about some picks that I don't really like, as well as some picks that I do like. I love Tyler Boyd in the 9th round. That is an amazing pick. I like, Jordan Howard here in the 9th round. I like Matt Ryan's value in the 9th round, and I really like Hayden Hurst. And I want to talk about some picks I don't like. I really don't like Devontae Parker. I just don't see it. But in the 8th round, I will go ahead and take that risk and take him there. J.K. Dobbins I don't like as well, but he fell into the 8th round. Typically, you see him go around the 6th round, so that's definitely a nice discount there for Dobbins. Even though I don't think that he will necessarily do it this year, I think it would take Mark Ingram getting hurt for him to do it, and taking a handcuff in the 8th round is a bit risky in my eyes. So now, looking at the board, we went with Marvin Jones. So now we're going to go ahead and probably snag another wide receiver to add depth to our roster. Right now, let's see how many quarterbacks we can on the board. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think 9 quarterbacks have came out the board if I can count correctly. So I'm the only team with that one, so we can go ahead and wait. But make sure you draft your quarterback before the other assholes in your league take their second quarterback. You don't need 2 quarterbacks in a 10-team league. You don't need 2 tight ends, but there are going to be some motherfuckers who do that. So go ahead and be ready for that, and make sure you're looking to make sure that you can go ahead and get your quarterback before a million others go, because you're at the turn. So if you don't pick one and then you see someone else already has 2, the brigade of 2 quarterbacks are going to come off, and you are going to be #upset. So now it is time to draft yet another wide receiver, and we're going to look for a guy with high upside down here. Now, you want to make sure in your draft you're not just looking at the guys that are on your screen. There's going to be a bunch of guys on your screen. You want to make sure you scroll down and take a mosey on look down here to make sure you see the guys that you want. See Anthony Miller buried down here. Solid 10th round pick. We can see McCole Hardman buried down here. Solid 10th round pick. Darius Slayton, while I don't love him as much anymore, solid 10th round pick with upside. So we're going to go ahead here and get my favorite 10th round pick in Mecole Hardman of the Kansas City Chiefs. I understand he's not safe at all. He's like putting a condom on that is completely slit in half, and you're just using the tip, or you're using a Snickers bar as a condom, but it doesn't matter because Mecole Hardman has that immense upside. He is on the most pass-heavy team, not the most pass-heavy team, but the most efficient pass-heavy team, I would say, in the NFL with Patrick Mahomes under center. I understand right now that he might not be the wide receiver 2 necessarily on the depth chart of the Kansas City Chiefs, but we know Sammy Watkins is one of those guys that has the tendency to disappear, so I believe that he will end up becoming that wide receiver 2 on a very high flourishing offense, and the guy is fast as fuck, so he works very well with Patrick Mahomes, obviously, because Patrick Mahomes can hit anyone deep as fuck down the field. So after Mecole Hardman, we see one of the guys that is really going to be raising up the draft boards in Antonio Gibson, running back of the Washington football team. He definitely has the potential to pass up Adrian Peterson on the Washington roster. It may not be the first couple of weeks. I think it might take till halfway through the season. So you got to understand that when you're drafting him, that he's probably going to ride your pine for a while. But with that said, you can go ahead and get him in the 10th round. Definitely some solid pick there. So if hopefully you guys cannot hear the guy mowing his lawn in the middle of the background. Doesn't he know that I'm fucking recording a video? Come on, all right? So after Antonio Gibson, we see Tom Brady come off the board, followed by Tyler Higbee, Deebo Samuel, Philip Lindsay, Sony Michel, Emmanuel Sanders, Alexander Madison, Hunter Henry, Kerryon Johnson, Jared Cook, Aaron Rodgers, Darius Slayton, Latavius Murray, Keyshawn Vaughn, Zach Moss, CeeDee Lamb, and Carson Wentz. So people are starting to take their second quarterback. So now we're going to go ahead and make sure that we snag ours because we don't want to be left behind in the draft. Now, Josh Allen is still available in the 11th round, which is fucking impossible. That is impossible. That will never happen in your draft. It just won't. So I'm not going to pick him because I think that that is a fucking fraudulent move because there's no way he should fall until the 11th round. That is obviously the pick here, but we're not going to pick him here because I think that that's a cheatsy move. So we're going to go ahead and snag a quarterback with some definite high floor, high ceiling, and that's Matthew Ryan. Matt Ryan has been tearing it up. Not Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford. He tore it up at the beginning of last year, but then he tore up his back because he was carrying the team too much. He was leading these guys to a potential MVP season from Matt Stafford. He could have somehow made the Detroit Lions make the playoffs. And with looking so good, I think we definitely can see him look this good again. Matt Stafford's been one of those really safe quarterbacks for fantasy football the last couple of years, so I believe he could do it again. Plus, we have Marvin Jones. We got a nice stack at the quarterback and wide receiver position. Not something you necessarily have to target, but something you can definitely target in your draft. So now it is time to go ahead and snag another running back. Now, I don't think this draft has enough slots for some reason to draft. No, it does. I'm fucking stupid. To draft all the positions we can. I'm a bit of a dumbass. So now it's time to snag another running back or another wide receiver. You can go either way here. I'll probably draft a running back and a wide receiver. And here, he fell pretty far. Darrell Henderson. We already have Cam Akers, so we can go ahead and make sure we lock up that Rams backfield and snag Darrell Henderson, who should be the starter at the beginning of the year, but then eventually it will become Cam Akers. So we have a solidified LA Rams roster. So looking like nobody actually fucked up in this draft and drafted a defense or a kicker super early. Obviously, the 12th round is early for a defense, but I won't go ahead and make fun of them because it is the last 4 rounds of the draft. So after we went with Darrell Henderson, fellow rookie, or not fellow rookie because he's just a rookie, Henry Ruggs III, followed by San Francisco defense, Josh Allen, Tony Pollard, Jerry Jeudy, Christian Kirk, Ravens defense, Jamison Crowder, Cam Newton, Bills defense, Steelers defense, Noah Fant, Sammy Watkins, Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson, Chase Edmonds, Damian Harris, as well as Duke Johnson. So since we went with the running back here, we're going to go ahead and snag a wide receiver with our last pick and go with super high upside pick of Anthony Miller. Typically, he's not here in the 10th round. If he is not there, go with N'Keal Harry. You can go with Allen Lazard. I like all of these guys, Mike Williams as well. But here we're going to go ahead and snag wide receiver Anthony Miller of the Chicago Bears. So now it is our turn to snag some defenses and some kicker. Obviously, just a defense and a kicker. Some other picks that I like that are still on the board here. Boston Scott as the handcuff for Miles Sanders. Adrian Peterson, potentially starter for the team, likely for the first couple of weeks. At wide receiver, like I said, I like Ayuk. I like John Brown. I like Preston Williams. I like Michael Pittman. I like Golden Tate. I like N'Keal Harry. I like Allen Robinson. This is a 10-team league, so they're telling you the wide receivers are deep as fuck. So now it's time to go ahead and pick our kicker and our defense. First, we're going to snag a defense playing a shitty offense week 1. The Chargers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Not necessarily a shitty offense, but a shitty starting quarterback who's not really that shitty, but it's his rookie year. First game. There's no preseason. Joe Burrow is going to stutter in that game. He's going to not have the hottest game that you would think he would have. So that's why I like them, especially with a good Chargers defense. And then the next week, you cut that defense, find a new one, and you're going to be able to find a defense by subscribing to my channel because I make videos every day of which defense to, no, not every day, every week of which defense to start. So Deshaun Jackson comes off the board, Daniel Jones, Justin Jackson, a bunch of kickers and defenses, as well as Big Ben Roethlisberger. So now we're going to get our kicker. There will be a kicker ranking video coming, but we're going to go ahead with kicker. There's a bunch available. We're going to go with Dan Bailey. No, we're going to go with Matt Gay, kicker of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So now to complete our roster, to look at our roster, we have Matthew Stafford, Joe Mixon, Josh Jacobs. Our 2 wide receivers are DJ Moore and Robert Woods. Our tight end is Mark Andrews. Our flex is Kareem Hunt. Our kicker and defense don't really matter. Our bench is comprised of James White, Cam Akers, Marvin Jones, McCall Hardman, Darrell Henderson Jr., and Anthony Miller. So if you guys did end up enjoying this video, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. It's free, and like I said at the top of the video, I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I hope you guys check out the Patreon as well. Click on one of the videos on your screen, and I'll see you motherfuckers tomorrow morning with Hot Takes NFC Edition. If you missed out earlier, Hot Takes AFC Edition. I love you all. Goodbye.